welcome to Ule Tea Leaf Readings. My name is Lenore, and today I'm going to be reading your tea leaves. All right, so we're here. We're in these tea leaves already. There are a lot of little formations here that I'm just like, these are very detailed. So I just want to get right into it. I'm so happy to feel you, to be here with you energetically, and, as the friends that we are. All right, so we have right here a dragon, right? I feel like it's very clearly a dragon. It feels powerful. It feels fierce. It has that fiery, creative, life bringing, just aura, right? So I feel like this is most definitely a time where you maybe are rising, right? You are coming out of, well, quite possibly a situation that, well, I feel like it's something that felt like it dragged you deep into that sunken place. We'll call it that, right? Uh, Maybe a period of feeling quite blue. Um, this might be mourning, grief, great anxieties. Now, it could be that this is about relationships and your interconnectedness in your family, socially, but it also could be that this is something to do with work, right? Financial. It might even be that you are somebody who dwells in the more existential parts of your thinking, of your experience, and the world is weighing heavily upon you, okay, or it had been. Now, I feel like something has shifted, okay? We are not lingering there any longer, shall we say. So I feel there is this kind of rising, this. Now, I don't think that it's some new entirely different transformation. I mean, you have been this dragon before. This is not, some new part of self emerging. But I do feel like it is like a rising again. Okay. Now, I want to look over here. We have a person who is standing. I just absolutely kind of feel like we're at the water. We're, at the beach, we're at the ocean, we're at the lake. We have what looks like a J or a hook. To me, it looks like a hook, okay? Now, above, it looks like we have either the kite flying, the butterfly. It indicates to me that there's a real strong presence of the air and the water, right? A place of deep contemplation, of really dwelling in the mental, and then we have those emotional waters, right? The more abstract thinking, the where emotion, experiential kind of not what's the word? Not implication, impressions, right? Kind of mix into the emotional experience of really embodying those sensations. And so we have those two things kind of flowing together. That's a very powerful meeting, right? And so I feel like this is maybe a place where, well, listen, you either catch your big catch, the thing, you hook it, right? Or, it gets away from us, right? It gets away from us. We're dragging in old boots and leaves that are seaweed, whatever, you know. Or maybe the hook just finds its way away from our line, you know, and it really is. It could go any of the ways. Um, but I do feel like here there's the opportunity to harness this fiery energy that you have, and I really need some water. I need some water. This fiery dragon energy that has returned. Being careful that I don't just I forget there's glass. I am not a very careful person. I am like a dropping stuff, flopping down on the furniture, setting things down way too hard kind of girl. So that was not easy for me. But so here's the deal. I feel like you have that fiery energy. It is returning to you, but you are also in the theater of the really, I think, deep contemplation. That's what it feels like. I feel that you have spent a lot of time in these last months gazing off, right? In your deepest parts of your mind, your psyche. You have been maybe brought to this place by outside stressors. Okay, but maybe it is. Maybe it is a practice that you are keeping. You know, maybe this is something that's intentional, it's part of your discipline. I don't think I have met many people who practice contemplation. It's something that I've become kind of passionate about myself. And it is, as it sounds, to just really think on things without outside stimuli. Well, there is stimuli, of course, but like not being on the phone, right? I try not to have music going. I like to look out at the trees or the sky or whatever. I feel that okay, so there's not a lot of people who are often, I think anyways, I don't know that many people, so who knows, maybe there are a lot of contemplators doing, learning the art of contemplation. But I think a lot of times we're just brought there because life is hard, life is scary, things are not easy, especially in the chaos of, it seems acceleration of technology, information, just everything feels like it's going so fast and yet so unpredictable and, all the things, right? And we go inward, and we verge on rumination, right? It's not just contemplation. This is a place of worry, a place of, hopefully planning, but maybe over planning because you're going over and over and over and over the same things because it feels safe. And I feel like maybe this, to some degree, that's more of the kind of gazing you've been doing, right? The looking off, anyways. I don't mean in the divination sense so much, but here we have a rising. We have some kind of shift in. Not in idleness. It might be looked at and you say, oh, you've been sitting around, worrying. I've been idle. I don't find that being in those places of thought loops and struggling to find clarity or inspiration, or I don't find that as idle. In fact, it's some of the most tiring work there is, right? Uh, but I do feel like for you, it felt like you were trapped in a place where you weren't really finding direction or some kind of perception of direction, right? And so uh, now we are released of that kind of limiting feeling. I think it's still there somewhere in the background. It's not gone, it has not disappeared. But you are handling things differently. You are computing that information differently. You're not, it's not wreaking as much havoc on the nervous system, at least in a very overt way. Okay. So, uh, I think that there is kind of this question of what do you do uh, with this energy rising, right? Are you going to revolt, you know, and kind of, go to the extreme of expressing maybe your discomfort, and what does that look like? Or as a dragon, what else do? We dance, we bring luck, right? We bring luck into our lives. We create, we find union, and we couple, and we procreate. And I don't mean in, uh, how these are applied. These words are usually applied to our regular life, right? Our physical world. And I'm not saying finding a mate and, making a family and all this. It could be, I mean, of course, but it's about the dance we do with the divine. It's about that flowing of kind of having your fingertips in the abyss, the aether, the abstract place where we pull those beautiful fragments and we bring them together, and we make all kinds of things, useful, redundant, unique, and not, right? It doesn't matter. It is the work of, well, I guess why I like to kind of say like a child of Enoch, or of the meta, right? Of that thing that brings forth those ineffable utterances, right? We get so close to the source. We can sit here and we could philosophize about language and the word and, all these logos and such, but the dance of the dragon, in my opinion, draws upon these streams of energy, right? These pure, creative, sexual energies. And I mean sexual in its most primal form. I don't mean necessarily the body, but it could be, right? So I feel like this is a time for you to decide to take this energy and put it into something intentionally, right? That's the big point here. Intentional with this energy, careful, precise. Where will you unleash it? How will you harness it? How will you swim in it and flow with it and all of this? My my rice is done. I was making some rice for lunch here. Okay, let's see. So we have the house. We have the house over here. We also have the faucet. Here's the house. Here is the faucet. Okay. I've seen the faucet a few times recently. Now, I am not going to say this is like something to do with plumbing, but of course, whenever we see these symbols, I have to say, go and check everything in your house. I'm not trying to be an alarmist, but it is always a good habit when we run into these kinds of symbols. We think, oh, yeah, okay, so this is for my routine checking things. Just to go around the house, make sure, the water faucet isn't dripping, or, there isn't, something leaking, or whatever it might be. Okay. Inside, looking under the sinks and all this kind of thing. Just for a routine checkup, right? But I also feel like this could really mean, and it does seem to me, that there is the flowing, right? There is the flowing of water, and there's it feels like a time of emotions within the household, in the domestic life. Um, Not necessary. Doesn't feel like a negative thing. Let me just say that right off the bat. It doesn't feel like fighting or separating or anything like this. What it feels like to me is that there is this breakthrough, a change in communication, the ability to say, just to say it, to just say it. Not blame it, not, minimize it, not, dance around it or veil it in, layers and layers, just to say it. And I think that this is going to be a time of great relief, deeper connection. And within the water, I feel we have the fish, and they are running, right? They are abundance coming in. Because where you have been holding a tightness, what do they call it? The elephant in the room or whatever. That stress, that shadow, the family shadow, right? That the shadow of the household, where we hide the things that we feel like we can't say or do, or, whatever. And it grows and it grows and it becomes, hopefully not, but it becomes a monster, a resentment, a frustration, an inability to even want to communicate, where it gets bad. It gets bad. But in the flowing of this, I feel like there is a sense of relief just to be able to say, and then to also hear, right? To hear and to really be able to connect in these vulnerable moments, even if they are uncomfortable, right? Which they will be, dude. You know what I mean? Like, that's why do you think so many of us avoid it? Avoid it, avoid it, avoid it. It's uncomfortable. It sucks. It sucks to have to just say what it is sometimes. But, the reality is, if you care about something, sometimes, and I'm not saying all the time we have to just be out here like thugging it out, keeping it real, telling you every little thought, that feels like, oh yeah, this is it. This is how I feel really forever. And then it passes and whatever. But when something needs to be said, because it really, you know when it is. You know when it is. And when we have missteps, when we trespass against each other, and that can just be literally just having a little, attitude, a little tude with each other. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying everything needs to be explained, but, we have to recognize our part in things and also, right, their part as well. But here's the deal. When we have a lot of this like emotional openness and vulnerability, there also needs to be a lot of grace. Let's not forget about that part. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that we just take, we're kumbaya-ing here. You know what I mean? You can say whatever you need, this, all the things, and I'm just gonna, because we're connected, I'm just gonna let it go. Right? I'm just all of it. We're talking about within reason. Okay, we're talking about within reason. But I don't, I feel like this is more of like we have forgotten how to communicate. And a lot of times it's because you're so dang busy. You're busy. You're being pulled in a bazillion directions. You know what I mean? The house is busy and it is inefficient for the schedule to have to sit and talk about all kinds of stuff constantly and people being upset and, this and that and whatever. It is inefficient, and I get that. I understand that. But sometimes, dude, we have to invest the time because it starts to it creates a blockage, a huge blockage in the flow of the family, of the self, of how we perceive the world, how we experience the world, how we interact with the world. And so I feel like this is a time where there's a lot of that emotional stuff, but also because you are not avoiding engaging the difficult stuff and processing and, and I'm not saying working through necessarily, but allowing it to be what it is, abundance flows your way. P.S. I'm very superstitious, but I believe that the world works this way a lot of the time. So, let's see. I want to look over here. We have, it looks like the letters OS, and I'm going to write that down. OS, the number 12. OS 12. And it looks like maybe also SC. Now I want to look over here. I have to make this one a little shorter. I have a bazillion things to get done. And your babe over here is not always the best at time management. Oh, okay, so I have to tell you. I've been seeing my fox friend quite often. Happiest little fox I've ever seen. And then I've seen both of the owls, and I don't know if you're new here, I talk about my backyard spirit friends. We all are getting closer and closer. I've been here for a few summers now, and winters, of course, and I'm slowly making friends. Like, we are pretty locked in at this point. But I saw both of my owls separately, and then yesterday I went out around dusk and I saw both of them together. They let me see them. I had gone out to go say hello to my spider sisters. There's two of them. And they're those beautiful ones. I forget the name. I gotta look up the name. But they have the round, very round body, and it looks like they have the print of the goddess on their back, and the primordial goddess form. Kind of, you see it in old figurines and artworks of goddesses. They always say they're fertility ones. I don't know. I say they're spider goddesses. Okay. Um, the world creators. And I went to go say hello to them and wish them a plentiful night. And they're always creating their webs around that time. And here are the owls, both of them, two owls. Imagine that. Imagine that. So, anyhow, let's see. I misuse my time constantly. So I'm running. I don't know. Let's see. I forgot what I was even talking. I was just excited, I think, about telling I have to talk about the animals a little bit. We also have an R. Now, this one says T. Look at that. TEA. Here we have a person kind of leaning back. There's like their hand is kind of up like this a little bit. Now, oh, and 7 down here. This to me is always an indication of prayer in the more general sense, not a very specific kind of prayer, but kind of making appeals, offerings, having a relationship with the divine where you are most likely not going through like a third party is how I like to think about it. Like you're not necessarily using I was gonna say a religious worker, I guess. I don't know, like a priest or a monk or a nun, or you might also do this, but I think that you're a person that has a very direct relationship with your faith, with the divine, whatever that looks like. If it is theistic or has, kind of human personified characteristics, if it's like a god or goddess or whatever, or animal deity or whatever it is. But you could have that. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's just kind of a greater vibe, spirituality, or whatever. Whatever it might be, right? I feel like this is very important to you. I feel like this is an aspect of your life when you are dwelling within it deeply, okay? And I mean this not as like I'm off at a retreat or, I've taken off 6 months to go, have a spiritual pilgrimage, although awesome. I'm jealous, you know. This is like when you are living your faith, when you are living your spirituality, when you are doing the things that make you feel closer to this. I don't care if this is, dancing barefoot in the lawn under the moon, or if this is talking to God while you're doing the dishes, you know what I mean? Or, carving out a period of your day where you can go and pray and meditate, or, whatever, formal, informal, whatever it is. So I feel like there is a returning to this, and this coincides with the rise of this fiery energy where I do think that now I'm not saying rigid discipline, but there's a sense of discipline by even considering your spirituality every day, or your religion every day, your faith every day. I would say because, I don't know. It probably depends on how you were raised, of course. But I had to practice thinking about these things every day. It took me years, and there have been periods of time where I was very about that life, right? And this is like the magics and the divination and the writing that comes from my magical work and all this is very important. It is like, you know, below my daughter, below my family, right in there. That's it. Maybe third place, right? Um, And then there are times where you are in the abyss, man. You know, you're on that like very lunar landscape. Like you are in the desert, dude. You know, in the wilderness, as they say. The dark night of the soul. And nothing feels like you know, you don't feel very attached to anything. I'm very, you know, media sensitive here, and I always it's terrible to admit this out loud, but I always, whenever I'm like thinking of the dark night of the soul, I want it to always be like, oh yeah, I'm like, the first image that comes to mind is some like, you know, monk crossing the abyss in a rowboat or something, but it's just Dr. Manhattan, like that still. I mean, from I do have you know, I have the Watchmen, and I have even an early edition Watchmen, so shout out to me. But and I've seen the movie a bazillion times, one of my favorite movies ever. But yeah, that one frame where he's just sitting on the moon, like, yeah, like I, I learned too much, bro. um, you know, and that happens, but I don't think that's where we're at, right? It's you're in that creative, flowy place, so pick. I don't know. I was gonna say pick the pleasure of it all. You know, enjoy. Yeah, really, and invest in finding your way through all of the distractions, you know, the things that are going to pull you this way and that way, and get to the stream, get to that midway, the way, right? That's find the way, whatever that looks like for you. You know, that's all I hope for anybody. My birthday's coming up pretty quick here. So, for my birthday, I would like to ask all of you, whoever is listening still, um, please dedicate your entire existence in life here in this, um, you know, profane, fleshy, material place. Um, dedicate it to finding the way. Just that's like the little ask I have. Thank you. um, so, anyways, I love you guys so much. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm going to just do one card. I'm gonna pick a poll. I should say poll. I'm not picking. Although I don't know. I guess like probably on some timeline somewhere I would be, or I already know. I do know. Oh, yeah. There we go. The devil. Yeah, have fun. Have fun with that fiery energy. Because the chains are broken, babe. I mean, they're gone. And it is going to be quite a rising for you. I really do believe that, and I love that. I love that for you. Yeah, definitely. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.